Well, joining me here in the studio is Neville Howard, and he's been in touch with me some time ago. We've got him to come today into the studio to tell us his story about your late wife.
Yes.
And she's now died, and she's been in care, and you're just not happy with the way the proceedings went. And obviously, because we've got to keep this quite general, we're not going to name people or places, particularly because I want the story to get out there. And the emphasis is on you want a new look into what happened, the coroner to go back and revisit the whole story before we start. Is that where we're at? Is that right?
Yes, I'd like a different coroner.
Okay.
If it's possible.
So, and I know it's going to be quite painful, but I hope you can tell us the story succinctly, only because of time, really, because it is quite detailed. Over to you. I mean, your wife's not been well, and she's been in care, so tell us the story if you can.
Yes, my wife suffered from myelofibrosis, which is a bone marrow disease. It attacks the red cells. The white cells attack the red cells, and she was on many tablets, including chemotherapy. But the chemotherapy kills off the white cells, but also some of the red cells. And since she'd been on the chemotherapy, her weight had dropped from 11 stone to under 8 stone. I'm not sure what her final weight was, but it was 7 stone something. She then caught pneumonia and was taken into hospital. And she was very, very poorly. And the consultant called us in, and myself and my 2 daughters, and said he didn't think she would last the weekend. And we sat with her, and she did pull through. But when it came time to leave the hospital said that she was too weak. She had no bodily strength to go home, but they would admit her to a care home or a nursing home, which she did. She was put into a nursing home.
And this is where problems occurred, that
yes,
things weren't done, in your view, to the right standard, and she was left not getting what she should have got.
Her assessment was not passed on to the nurses who were actually caring for her. The matron said that she only has contact with a patient when she's brought in, and after that the care is handed over to the nurses. Well, there seems to be no channel of communication between nurses as what's required and who is delegated to do what.
Now you've got, I mean, they've given reports of what they did, and you've questioned some of those things, like she was left probably sitting in a chair for too long, and very late going to bed some nights, that sort of thing. Which
yes,
you're worried about.
Some of these reports actually shocked myself and my 2 daughters. It's very upsetting to read these notes.
And then she had some bruising, and it wasn't explained particularly.
Yes, she had a large bruise on her lower stomach, which was not explained. It just said no complaints made. And
then, I said, we are giving this a very short version. I mean, she got seriously ill, and she died. I mean.
Yes, she was got up for her breakfast one morning, and the care assistant just put her breakfast down, and my wife was in the toilet, and she said, "Are you okay?" And Wynne said yes. So she walked out and left her. But after she'd gone, my wife went to the wardrobe to get, it's alleged, clean pyjamas. She tripped and fell and hit her head. And then was picked up by 2 nurses, one who thought she'd broken her hip, the other thought she'd fractured her skull. So they lifted her up and sat her in a chair.
2 very serious things, and to be left in a chair does sound odd.
They should have left her on the floor and called an ambulance immediately.
Okay, and this is all documented, the time scale,
yes.
Timelines on that thing?
They wasted 40 minutes in calling an ambulance. One of the nurses who picked her up suggested calling her GP. And then the other nurse eventually phoned that nurse, said she was worried about my wife. And she said, call her GP. But at that moment, the matron came back, who'd been on holiday, and said, call an ambulance. I arrived at the hospital just after my wife was brought in, and they were just taking her down for an x-ray on her arm. Well, when they brought her back, when I walked into the room, she was sitting or lying in the bed, and I could see she was unconscious. So my daughter ran out and called a nurse who came in, and then they took Wynne away for a scan, and then they came back and said she had a severe bleed on the brain and was unlikely to recover. And she'd actually died at 4 minutes past midnight that same night.
The coroner and the proceedings is the bit that obviously you're particularly worried about, because what you heard in court, at the coroner's court, and you were given an audio CD of events, they didn't seem allegedly to tally up. There were bits missing. You're claiming here. The story's not the same as what was said.
That's right. There was one comment that the coroner made that shocked me. And when I listened to the CD that my daughter had been given, that comment was not on it.
So you think they've actually edited the material? You know, you were there at the time, so you heard it live.
Yes.
But it's not there on the.
It's not on the CD.
Have you had that confirmed by other people? It's not just you forgetting it.
No. My two daughters were so upset that they're being truthful and say that they cannot actually say that whether they heard it or not.
You were there as well, though?
I was there as well.
Okay, so that obviously is a question mark.
When somebody is saying that about your wife who just passed away...
You remember everything?
You don't forget it. It's in your brain, because why did he say that?
And you've asked, I know, since for another CD and unedited,
yes.
They want to charge you for that, but how has it? And you would have to sign some sort of agreements not to divulge. Is that what?
Yes. When I asked for an unedited version of the CD, they wrote back and said I could have one for £30 and sign a no disclaimer order.
Okay.
Which I don't understand, because the inquest was held in an open court. There were other people there. There was a newspaper reporter there.
Now, as we said at the beginning, I mean, you just want everything to come out, all
yes.
the information, and you think some people may not be quite
so
saying...
much in the care home that hasn't been done.
A lot of questions still to be answered.
The point is, they take you in for a not inconsiderable sum of £800 a week. When that's accepted, there's a contract form that they have a duty of care to look after your wife to the best of their ability, and that was not done.
You've gone to your MHKs, I know you've gone to the health people, you're not getting any answers, hence you've gone to the press. I think even your own MHK and said to look at it, but nothing. It's been 3 years as well, so... Yes.
I've actually been run out of time. I now understand I made a time to sue the care home. I made a time to contest the coroner's report, and I made a time to go to the judiciary and make a complaint to the coroner.
So the only course left is to get the Health Minister, Kate Beecroft, on board maybe on this one now, because she's just taken over. Would that be where you're aiming this at? I mean, somebody that can move,
I'm aiming
open
for
some doors even.
Anybody that can help me get a new inquest. One that's open and fair and based on honesty. Because there was a certain amount of dishonesty of statements that were sent to the coroner.
Okay, well, that's your allegation, and that you stand by that, I understand. I mean, you've got a lot of paperwork here. So by telling your story today, let's see if we can... we're going to pass this, by the way, on to Kate Beecroft and the other MHKs that you've also told me about who have had some part of this. But other parts of the press also haven't actually picked up on it either, even though you have tried, I know that. So,
no,
I mean,
everybody who said that they would help me at the last minute have pulled out.
Right.
And
do you think there's anyone, anything, pressure being put on people?
Well, the only thing I think, like age concerned, they're government funded.
Right.
So,
well, thanks for joining us.
I had nowhere else to go. I just ran out, and I just do not know where I could turn to next.
Well, we'll see what happens, and we'll follow the story. Thanks for coming and telling us about it.
I'm very obliged. Thank you.